Hello. Today we are going to be talking about how to write your statement of interest and the critical social analysis for Wilfrid Laurier University's Master of Social Work program. My name is Michelle, and I'm the founder of MSW Helper, which is a resource hub for applicants who are applying to Master of Social Work programs. One thing that is really important to note as you are watching this video is that MSW Helper and myself is in no way affiliated with Wilfrid Laurier University. Over the last 5 years, I have supported dozens, if not hundreds, of applicants who are applying to Wilfrid Laurier's MSW program, but I'm not actually affiliated with the school in any way, shape, or form. So today we are going to be walking through the steps you need to take to write a compelling statement of interest and critical social analysis. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some logistical questions and different parts of Laurier's application in particular that comes up. I am going to share my screen and I'll walk you through it. So let me get my screen share going here. Okay, so this is the MSW Helper website. This is where you can find everything that you need in preparing your Master of Social Work application. And I just want to point you really quickly to our social work personal statement editing services, which I might talk about a little more later, but basically our team offers personal statement editing and consultations. So if after watching this video, you still have questions or are looking for support, you can visit the MSW Helper website to find that. Okay, so here is the guide that I created for Laurier's MSW statement of interest and the social issue. So we're just going to walk through it together as well as look at the actual prompts that the school provides and talk about how you're going to break down each section. So Laurier has kind of three key areas to their application process. They ask for an experience form, a statement of interest, and a critical analysis of a social issue. When they're assessing your responses, they state that they are looking for you to show a demonstration of your interest in social work, a commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, analytical, critical thinking and writing skills, relationship building skills, a critical understanding of a contemporary social issue, and self-awareness and awareness of your own social location. So through the personal statement, that's really where you're going to show that you have everything that they're looking for, and that's what we're going to walk through. Okay, let's start by looking at the work and volunteer experience form. So this is their version of the resume. A lot of the schools that you're going to apply to will have you submit like your typical resume. But for Laurier, they have actually created a template that they would like you to complete. And I'm just going to pop over so that you can take a quick look. This is available on their website. So make sure after watching this video that the next step that you do is to download these and look at them yourself. So you'll see there's kind of this template available where you can list all of your paid experiences. You're going to put down the dates that you work there and the total number of hours. And then there's going to be space for you to talk about those experiences, which I'll tell you about in a second. And then they have a similar form for the unpaid experiences. So again, you're going to list them out, include the hours and the dates that you were working there. So my biggest tip for the experience form and subsequently the write-up that you do in this section is not making sure that you don't discount your non-relevant social work experiences. I often see applicants discount their experiences because it doesn't feel like it's related to social work. However, they say explicitly on their form that you can include any roles where you worked with equity seeking groups or gained social work skills. And they provide examples such as like a counselor at a summer camp or a barista who supported members of the homeless community, or like a teacher's aide in a primary school classroom. And that's something that at MSW Helper that we are always encouraging applicants to think about is, We all come to social work with various backgrounds and skills, and it's really about um, like the skill sets that you bring and the transferable skills that you have that apply to social work. And honestly, no matter what your experience is, I can guarantee that you have something that you can talk about. One example I love to give is, when I was in high school, I worked at McDonald's. And obviously, working at McDonald's is not really at all related to social work, but I learned a lot of different skills that inevitably helped me in my career as a social worker. When you're working as a cashier, you learn skills in communication, teamwork, leadership, thinking quickly on your feet, dealing with like crisis or customers who are having a difficult moment, if you catch my drift. When you're listing your experiences, I want you to really think about the roles you had where you either worked with people or you developed soft skills. The amount of experience you have is a factor that the admissions committee considers when assessing your application. So the amount of experience that you have matters. And if you're missing, something that you really could talk about and show how you have developed social work skills, you're missing an opportunity to increase the amount of hours that you have on your application. Okay, so let's talk about the description of the paid and volunteer experiences. So going back to this form, after you list out all of your experiences, they give you these text boxes, and you have up to 350 words to provide a description of both your unpaid and your paid experiences. And one mistake that I see a lot of people make in this section is they'll just regurgitate their resume and list their roles and responsibilities. But what they are actually looking for in this section is a demonstration that the role provided you with the skill sets, knowledge, and critical thinking skills required to thrive in the MSW program and as in a career in social work. So it's important to provide examples of how your role prepared you for a career in social work. So they listed the example of a barista. So that's what I kind of used as the example in this article here. And, a barista is probably not going to talk about how they served coffee or managed the till or maintained a clean environment that met health and safety standards. Instead, they're going to talk about how through that role, they gained communication skills and built relationships with members of their community by serving regulars. They might also talk about how many of their patrons to the coffee shop were homeless, and through their role, they often supported that community by offering free food and coffee on cold winter evenings, or maybe providing like various supports. They might even talk about the fact that they faced ethical dilemmas when their employer tried to implement a coded bathroom policy which prevented people who were homeless from accessing their bathrooms. So, at first glance, if we didn't have that context, we probably wouldn't recognize the skills that someone had as a barista when assessing their application for a social work program. But Laurier knows this. And so that's why they provide that space for you to provide those examples and talk about the actual skills, knowledge, and experience that you gained from your non traditional social work roles. Okay, so next, let's talk about the statement of interest form. So I'm just going to pop over to their version of the form. They have some pretty good, like thorough instructions of what they're looking for here. And once again, they're providing you a text box to input all of your answers. So they want you to write a brief statement of interest discussing how your personal, academic, volunteer, and professional experiences have informed your decision to pursue graduate studies in social work at Laurier. And then they're asking you to address how these experiences influence your approach to social work, have shaped your understanding of equity, diversity, and inclusion, have contributed to your short and long term career goals, and influence how you might contribute to the student community and the overall environment at Laurier. So, one thing I find people struggle with is understanding the difference between the experience form and the statement of interest form. So, a personal statement, or in this case, the statement of interest, is generally a written work that provides an overview of your goals and motivations for becoming a social worker. Whereas the work and volunteer experience form has a bigger focus on your skills and your experience. So the statement of interest form is more concerned about your future goals as a social worker, and the work and volunteer experience form is more so focused on your past experiences and the skills that you've gained. So, going back to the example of the barista, they might talk about how their experience made them realize the challenges members of the homeless community face, namely the lack of supports that exist. And this made them realize that there is a critical need for social work in this area. And so their long term goal is to become a housing specialist or a case manager that supports the homeless population. So, this statement of interest is notoriously tricky because it's only 500 words that they allow you to write in that section. And they have like 4 or 5 different prompts that they want you to cover. So, it can be really tricky to make sure that you are actually answering all of the prompts. But it's really important to make sure that you do touch on every single prompt that the school asks because there's a reason that they're asking all of those questions. All of those questions are going to help them assess whether you are demonstrating like the critical thinking skills and all the different things that we talked about at the very beginning of this. Um, so I know that being concise can be something that's really tricky for a lot of people, getting all their answers into that 500 word limit. So through our personal statement editing services, our application advisors can help you make sure that you effectively answer all the prompts while still making sure that you meet the word count. Now, there's obviously a lot more that I could go into about how to write a strong statement of interest. That's kind of what our specialty is. For the sake of not making this too long, I'm just going to leave some resources in the description that you can use to help you write your personal statement. So check out things like our webinar, our different blog posts, and our personal statement template. Those are all really great places to start for writing your personal statement or your statement of interest. Okay, and the last part that Laurier asks for is a critical analysis of a social issue. So just taking a look at this form here, very similar, they set up the prompt and then give you space here to write your response. So what they're looking for is a critical analysis of a contemporary social issue at the local, national, or global level that is relevant to the field of social work. And they ask you to consider the following prompts in your analysis. What is the social issue that you have identified and why is it relevant to the field of social work? What are the factors that influence this issue, including issues of power? Why does this particular social issue deserve public attention and resources? What, if any, differing opinions on how to address this issue? Discuss some possible ways that you, as a social worker, might contribute to addressing this issue, and then feel free to add any personal reflections that you've chosen to present. One of our signature strategies at MSW Helper is ensuring that your social justice issue is connected to your goal as a social worker. This is important because showing admissions committees that there is a need for social work in your area of interest shows the admissions committee that you will fill a gap as a social worker, which reinforces your suitability for the program. So going back to that example of the barista, she is talking about how she is interested in supporting the homeless population, which was derived from her insights working as a barista in a coffee shop. So for her social justice issue, she might talk about like the challenges that the homeless population in her community faces, and she might even find specific statistics like for her community about things like housing wait lists, transportation issues, and like application barriers. So, in that example, not only is she showing that she has an interest in this area and a passion for it, but also there's a need. She's providing statistics and research to show that there is a need for social workers in this area. And because she has some of those experiences and insights, she would be an amazing fit to fill that gap. And then, so going off that example even further, She can take it one step further by talking about what she hopes to do as part of her short and long-term goals, and how, as a resident of her community, she can work to address this gap and provide a unique perspective to the MSW program at Wilfrid Laurier University. Again, I don't want this to run too long, but that basically provides you with a really brief introduction to how to write a strong statement of interest and the critical social issue. Again, those two areas are what we really specialize in at MSW Helper. So make sure you go to mswhelper.com, and we have a ton of free resources that expand on this even further, as well as templates that you can use to start brainstorming and start breaking down your ideas. Okay, and the last thing I want to touch on are some Laurier specific application things that tend to come up. So my first tip is to make sure that you follow word count requirements. Wilfrid Laurier University limits responses to the personal statement and the critical analysis to 500 words each. And then the paid and volunteer experiences get 350 words each. It's really important to make sure that you are following those word counts. Being really far under is usually an indicator that you haven't provided enough information, and being far over the word count means that you are not being concise enough. Now, sometimes applicants ask me if, they are a couple words over, should they be like getting it down to 500? I would say if you can, yes, definitely, like, try to be as concise as possible and meet the requirements that they set out for you. At the same time, sometimes you do have to make a judgment call, especially if you feel that, like, taking random words out of your statement is going to make it less clear, or, like, get rid of, like, some really important points. Um, so that's on you to make a judgment call there and what you think is best based on your own specific statement. You can also reach out to the school directly to get their opinion on that as well. Also, for most schools, we usually recommend that applicants submit their personal statement in APA format. However, because you will be submitting your personal statement and the critical analysis and all those different parts via the forms that they provide, you're not really able to follow APA formatting. Like, you won't be writing it in a Microsoft Word document, and so you just can't do APA when it's in a form like that. However, they do say that if you choose to use references in either section, please use a consistent referencing style for in-text citations. Again, I would recommend APA because that's what we use in social work. And then also provide like the references at the end. And they do say that references are not counted in the word count, and can be included after each question. Now, when it comes to using the PDF that was provided by Laurier, some applicants have reported challenges writing in the form and then saving it. Sometimes people will go to write in the form and then save, and then they open it later and it's no longer there. So the workaround would be to copy and paste this form into Microsoft Word. So you want to grab everything here or create your own copy and then put it into a Microsoft Word document and save it as a PDF from there. If anybody has any updated information on that, let us know so that we can let future applicants know. But I know that that's something that comes up every year that people have questions about. This is just another pro tip, but make sure that you spell Wilfrid Laurier University correctly. A lot of people make the mistake of spelling Wilfrid with an E instead of an I. And this is a really simple mistake, but I think it's really important to make sure that you are spelling the name of the school that you are applying to correctly. And then last thing that I just wanted to touch on for those of you who are interested in personal statement editing, for our purposes at MSW Helper, we consider both the statement of interest and the critical analysis to be one personal statement. Sometimes people get confused and only send us the statement of interest, but we include the critical analysis as well. And then the experience form would fall under our grad school and CV editing services. If you have any questions about that, you can email info@mswhelper.com and we can clear up any questions you have there. Okay, so hopefully you have a better sense of what Wilfrid Laurier University is looking for in their MSW application form. I remember when I was applying to MSW programs, I felt really lost with the prompts that the schools provided, and I wasn't really clear if the angles that I took or the things that I was writing were what they were actually wanting. So just a quick breakdown of what they're looking for in each section. In the experience form, you're going to list 1 to 10 roles for the experience form, and don't forget to include those non-traditional experiences where you gain social work skills. Then you're going to go into your description of paid and volunteer experiences. So focus on discussing transferable skills gained in your roles and demonstrating your critical thinking skills instead of providing a job description. And then in your statement of interest, you're going to provide an overview of your insights, motivations, and goals for becoming a social worker and discussing how you will contribute to the field of social work in a meaningful way. Finally, in your critical social analysis, you're going to choose a social justice issue that is connected to your goals and how you will address that problem and fill a much needed gap as a master's level social worker. If you follow these tips, you should be on your way to a strong application that stands out. Like I said, be sure to check out the MSW Helper website for more information on this, and also make sure that you check Laurier's website for the most up-to-date requirements. In my time over the last few years, I haven't seen those requirements or those prompts change, so I'm assuming they'll probably stay the same for a while. But always good to make sure that they haven't updated something, and obviously always go with like the most official copy. Hope this helps, and if you have any questions, definitely let me know.